Happy Constitution Day, everybody, and you just got done with an activity where you had to sort out a whole lot of history. And hopefully it was easy for you. If it wasn't easy for you, hopefully it was educational for you. And I want to focus on one of these historical events, the Constitution. And I have a question for you, or a claim for you. The creation of the Constitution is the most important event in U.S. history. Now it's time to think. Now it's time to talk. Now, if you agree with this, support it. Just don't say, yeah, it's right. Okay, that's fantastic, but why is it right? You might need to extend to add a few things or take something away, but to make your point a little more elaborate to how you feel, or challenge, go, absolutely not. The Constitution is not the most important historical event. You have 18 of them here, so have a good talk with this, but I want to move on with the Constitution, and please don't confuse the Constitution with the Declaration of Independence. Unfortunately, this man, Speaker of the House Boehner, in 2009, the Speaker of the House, confused the two documents. Adults do it all the time. I don't want you to confuse these two. Now, the Declaration, July 4th, 1776, America's birthday, where we told England that we are done with you, and we gave them a reason why. Thomas Jefferson's words, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This happened over a decade before the Constitution. Now, the Constitution was not the first governing document Americans came up with. Now, we had something called the Articles of Confederation from 1781 to 1787. It did not work. It failed because there wasn't an executive branch to enforce the laws. There wasn't a judicial branch to interpret the laws. No national currency. Imagining going from state to state and having to change your currency. You needed all 13 states to approve anything, and if you've ever been in a group, one person can muck it up. So imagine that if one state inhibited the growth or prevented something from happening if 12 others agreed. It's not going to work out real well. And the inability to tax. We had a war to pay off. We owed the French a lot of money. If we don't tax people, I don't know how we get that money. So it didn't work. So we move on to the Constitution, but it wasn't without struggle. There were two fundamentally different sides, philosophically speaking, Federalist and Anti-Federalist. And in modern times, we still have the modern Republican Party, the modern Democratic Party, similar in their sentiments, where the Federalists wanted a strong constitution. This is Hamilton, this is Madison, a strong federal government. The Anti-Federalists did not want the Constitution. They said it was too strong. They said a Bill of Rights needed to be added to make it less powerful at a federal level. And this compromise was struck, and that was the brilliance of our founding fathers to do that. And they worked together. And eventually this man, James Madison, the father of our Constitution, penned a lot of our Constitution, in particular the Bill of Rights. So thank you, President Madison, for writing the Constitution. And the first part of the Constitution is the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. It's a goal. It's a mission statement. It's what we can be. A union that is more perfect, to get better, just, fair, domestic tranquility, peace, common defense, being safe from outside attackers, general welfare, what's good for the most people, being free, having our children being able to be free. This is the beginning of our Constitution. Now, following the preamble, we have the 7 articles. And this is the nuts and the bolts of how to run America. With the first article, how do we make the laws, rules in terms of making laws. The second article, how we enforce the laws, rules related to that. The third article, how we interpret the laws. And then 4 is how do states interact with each other. The 5th, how do we amend the Constitution. The 6th, the supremacy of the national government. Further buttressed in 1803 with Marbury versus Madison to really reinforce that point. And then 7, how do we ratify the Constitution? So, first part, the preamble. The second part, the 7 articles. Now, I think the part that's the most intriguing, the most interesting to me, would be the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to our Constitution. And the First Amendment, that we as American citizens can assemble and petition our government. Here's a twofer right here. People are assembling in a group and petitioning their government. Freedom of press. You can watch whatever news outlet you want to watch. If that's the BBC, if that's CNN, if that's Fox News, you have the freedom to watch what you want. You have the freedom to worship however you want, and you have the freedom of speech. But bear in mind, all the amendments have limits. These are not unlimited, but it's a significant amount of freedom that we have as American citizens. The Second Amendment, it's the ability to own a gun if you choose, and it's a very controversial, very divisive issue, and some people are saying absolutely guns are fantastic, guns should be wherever people want them, and other people are saying no, they're dangerous, we're not going to solve that problem today. But as American citizens, you certainly have the choice to have a firearm if you want to when you are an adult. Third Amendment. Now, I know this one doesn't apply to today so much that we don't worry about the British soldiers showing up in our house and taking our stuff. But in places in the world, the military can do really whatever they want when it comes to the civilian population. Now, we here in America, the military is kept separate from civilians, and they're never going to take advantage of civilians. And having that line is really important, and thankful that we have that as American citizens. Now, the Fourth Amendment has to do with privacy, and this one's a very common debate one amongst high school students, especially when something is taken from the locker. And there's an acronym here, Beach Papis, the limits to the Fourth Amendment of your privacy at the border, the Mexican or Canadian border, during emergencies, administration, school administrators in your locker. If you consent, yeah, you can look at my stuff. Hot pursuit. If you're in hot pursuit by the police, you throw something out the window. Nope, it's not on my person. It counts. If it's in plain view, if it's probable cause, inventory. For instance, if they are looking around for something unrelated to this something and they find it, it counts. Stop and frisk. Have you ever been to a concert? Oftentimes they stop and frisk you, or searching an incident to arrest. So the Fourth Amendment is not the strongest amendment in terms of our privacy, and that's being debated in the age of the internet. Fifth Amendment, due process. Everybody gets a fair shake in our court system. You can't self-incriminate. You can't be put on trial twice. You cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without just compensation. Everybody gets this. It's called due process. That's our Fifth Amendment. Now, the Sixth Amendment, we get a speedy and public trial for criminal matters by an impartial jury of our peers, and we get told what we have been accused of. We're not being left in the dark of what we did. You can have witnesses. You can have an attorney represent you. The Sixth Amendment has to do with criminal matters. The Seventh Amendment has to do with civil matters, matters that are dealt with financial compensation versus incarceration, if that simplifies it for you. So Sixth is criminal, Seventh is civil. Eighth Amendment, these pictures speak for themselves. No cruel and unusual punishment. In history, there have been some cruel and unusual punishments, but we can't have that in America. The Ninth Amendment, there are rights that we have that aren't specifically mentioned in our Constitution, and that's okay. For example, there's nothing explicitly written how we can wear our hair. We have the right to wear our hair however we want. We have the right to eat whatever we want. I can travel anywhere in this country as an American citizen, so can you. Maybe in the future there's some rights that we can't even think about right now, but the Ninth Amendment allows those to be put into the mix. The meaning of the Ninth Amendment is that the Constitution does not include all of the rights of the people in the states. We got more than what is mentioned, which is fantastic. We have more than what are mentioned. And the 10th Amendment. Now, the supreme power is the Constitution at the federal level. However, if the federal level does not have control over it, it drops to the state. Now, if it doesn't drop to the state, it can drop to a local municipality. Now, there are certain things in this country that are federal. The Army, it is the U.S. Army. It's not a state army. Now, driver's licenses are different. You have a Michigan driver's license, not a America driver's license, because driving is not something that resides at the federal level. And then, how many dogs you can have, where they can walk, how you dispose of their waste. State doesn't fiddle with that. Federal doesn't fiddle with that. It becomes local. So power resides at different levels. These 10 are the Bill of Rights. And it's a real wonderful thing to have as an American citizen, to have these rights. Now, these aren't the only amendments in the Constitution. Now, we've had amendments for the last 200 years, from 11 to 27. And for the sake of time, we're not going to get into any detail about these, but 13, 14, and 15, these are called the Civil War amendments. We fought the Civil War. 620,000 people died. 2% of our population, 4 years of bloodshed, and we got 13, 14, and 15. Abolishing slavery, the privileges of citizenships. You cannot deny the ability to vote on race. And then we have items such as the 19th Amendment, where women can vote for the first time, and Amendment 26, the right for 18-year-olds to vote. So we have had these amendments added throughout the last 200 years. And what's beautiful about our Constitution, if something is tried and it doesn't work, you can get rid of it. Great example, 18th Amendment, prohibition of alcohol, did not work out. 21st Amendment changes. So that's the beauty of our Constitution, the ability to change. Now here's some interesting facts just for the sake of interesting facts. The Constitution only contains 4,440 words. All of the delegates were never together in the same room. That's a fact. Benjamin Franklin was the oldest person to sign it at 81 years old. Jonathan Dayton, the youngest, at 26. Franklin was so old he needed help signing it as tears streamed down his face. He understood the magnitude of this moment. George Washington proclaimed the first Thanksgiving on November 26, 1789, to give thanks to the Constitution. The word democracy does not appear once in the Constitution. It took exactly 100 days to frame it, and the man who physically wrote it out was paid $30, which is $661 in modern money. So here's the recap. The Declaration of Independence is not the Constitution. Please do not confuse the two. It's a very common mistake that people make. I don't want any of you to make that mistake. Now, the Articles of Confederation was the first governing document of this nation, and it was deeply flawed. It didn't last for very long, and the Constitution was an attempt, and I would argue a successful attempt, to remedy the problems that were contained in the Articles of Confederation. Now, the Constitution in its formation was a compromise between two different philosophical schools of thought, Federalist and Anti-Federalist. And this ability to compromise and work together was the reason the Constitution blended so well with these two philosophies. Now, there are four fundamental parts of the Constitution: the preamble, the goal, the motto, what we hope to have happen, the 7 articles, the nuts and bolts and rules of how the country works, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments that give us our rights as American citizens, and then amendments 11 through 27 were added from 1795 to 1992. And that is the Constitution. So I hope everybody out there has a wonderful Constitution Day. I hope you take a moment to think about this nation, what it means to be a citizen of this nation, and then go out and make this nation a better place. Thank you for watching.